Hello everyone, welcome to day one of our series called What Happens Next, which is I think the question that's on many of our minds is what are the next steps, how are we managing to bring all our energies together and figure out how we're going to adapt and cope with this situation. So for that we have actually, we're going to be interviewing 15 people from 15 different cities from many different countries and seeing how they are adapting and what their next steps are. So today we have a very special guest from Trinidad and Tobago. Just give me a second while I get her on. Just making sure we have everybody here. Meanwhile, yes, hi to everyone here. Just give us a few moments before we can get everyone online. So we're just going to wait for her to accept. I'm sure what's going to happen. Alright, no, she's here. Just took a minute. So, like I said, this is going to be a series of various different people be interviewing. And may I introduce to you our first speaker, our first guest, Melissa Jimenez. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Shreya.
Thanks for joining us. What is it, 10:30 a.m. right now for you, Monday morning?
10:33 on the dot.
Yes, so Monday morning, thanks for joining us. And so just to give you guys a little bit of context, Melissa and I have known each other since 2015. Can you believe that, Melissa? That's crazy.
I know, time flies so fast.
And we've worked on many projects together, on sponsorship proposals together, on the Startup Weekend in Chicago together. So we've done a lot of projects and we keep in touch. And we were recently just talking about the COVID crisis. And we thought, okay, it'd be interesting to see if how all these conversations that we're having privately, if we have it on a public forum. So maybe other people can get ideas or, reach out to either of us or just be there for the community and help them think what the next steps are. So she, right now, she's in Trinidad, like she said, and she's also an entrepreneur. She's an arts manager. She's also the general manager of Music TT, right?
Correct.
Do you want to tell them a little bit more about your role and what you do, just to give everybody context?
Sure. So Music TT is a state agency under the Ministry of Trade and Industry. We are vested with the business development and export activity and education of the music sector. So we have a host of programs and projects designed to do just that, to foster the community.
Yeah. Oh, great. Okay. And so what is the situation there like right now with COVID and everything shut down?
It is a bit stressful. I think, well, this is week 6 for me at home right now.
6 weeks of lockdown in Trinidad?
Yeah. So the first 2 weeks were like, a pseudo lockdown kind of thing. Just the government appealing to everyone to stay at home, and that company should shift their working hours to allow staff to work from home, etc. So those first 2 weeks were like work from home predominantly. Restaurants were still open, some of the businesses were still open, other businesses and whatnot. And then it was like, okay, you know what? We really need to clamp down on this when they saw that numbers were going up in terms of the number of people affected. So they issued a stay-at-home order, which essentially shut down all the restaurants, all the non-essential businesses. So you have businesses like the hospitals, the pharmacies, supermarkets, some hardwares with limited hours being open, all of those businesses that are considered essential at this time, and everywhere else is closed down. So it's really taking a toll on our economy locally, and we're already a small island. So I'm dreading a little bit to see where that goes.
So what about
Yeah.
shows that I think got cancelled much in advance, right, in first week 1 and 2, right?
Yes, shows have been cancelled from since week 1 and 2. It was limiting at first in that the first stay-at-home order was basically saying that we can have groups gatherings of no more than 25 persons. And then,
Oh.
everybody's like, oh, okay, well, 25, not too bad. We'll have some small events here and there, you know. And then it was like, no, you're not getting it. Here's what. Take a stay-at-home order with groups of no more than 5 persons. And then if we catch you on the road, you're gonna have to answer to us where you're going. If it's not the supermarket or the pharmacy, find yourself back home. So that essentially shut down any sort of live performance at all that you can possibly have across the country. Yeah.
So then what happened to all your shows? Are you doing them online or have you just cancelled them indefinitely? How are you managing that?
So a lot of artists, even producers, DJs, um, creatives on the whole have taken to going live with a lot of their stuff. Um, at first, I think in the first couple weeks, it was more of, oh my God, we don't know what to do. Everybody's in a panic. So everybody's deciding, oh, let me just go live randomly. And then
Yeah.
you find Instagram crashing, Facebook crashing, everybody's crashing because everybody all over the world is thinking the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And then as the weeks roll by, I think I've seen so far that people are getting a little more strategic in the way that they are going live with stuff. So you find people exploring virtual tip jars, and other forms of software. You even see that like Zoom and some of these other conferencing and webinar platforms are being tailored on their back end to suit live performances so that people are now
Oh,
able to use a number of these web-based applications for the same.
right.
So we're seeing conferences going online now, paid and unpaid. We're seeing webinars happening across the board in all different respects. And then, of course, there's the fun elements that the DJs and everybody bring to try and, bring that party vibe to your house. So, if you go on any of the DJs' lives, you're going to see them just basically playing music in their living room. And then there are some DJs that bring in live screens like this to show, oh, this person partying in their house and that person partying in their house. So, it's it's
So
it's,
a
it's
shared
fun.
virtual
Correct.
experience, everybody's personal spaces.
From all
But this
over the
virtual,
world.
yeah. So this tipping jar is very interesting. So people perform and then they just tip them like how we had Venmo in the US, something similar to that. So they would just
Um,
text them a number and everybody would just send in tips.
yeah, so this is not something unique to Trinidad. This is a international platform that somebody created just in the nick of time for the COVID, I guess, on the back of China's, wave. Um, to, yeah, I think the name of the website is actually Virtual Tipping Jar. So they literally created it just for that, and I'm not sure how it works. I haven't read into the details of it. But
Okay.
yeah,
We'll check it out. Virtual
yeah.
tipping jar. We should add that to the series so people can tip us.
Yes,
We arts managers need to make revenue too, right?
exactly. We'll check out the webinar platforms.
Yes, we should definitely. What about like fundraising? Like at least here in India, a lot of people are fundraising for the arts, fundraising for various groups. What's happening there? And how are people fundraising for artists?
Fundraising for artists. So I recently saw a live poster um, of somebody doing a competition for steel pan players.
Mm.
Um,
Okay. Mm.
so steel pan, for anybody else watching, is our
Yeah,
national
music.
instrument. So for steel pan players, where if you want to perform, just like in any of those big competitions and championships and whatnot, is like you pay a fee, a minimal fee, to appear.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, they have this pot cash prize of,
Oh.
based on votes and this and that and whatever structure they put in place to go towards the
Mm-hmm.
winner of this tournament. So
Oh.
there's that. Um,
Mm.
there are the paid options, so the webinars with paid platforms where people are paying to watch these conferences or webinars that the professional industry like ourselves put on. Um,
Right.
and then there are the concerts that won't happen on IG Live or Facebook Live, but they'll happen somewhere else where people pay again a subscription to enter the
Yeah.
concert.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then of course, thank God for our diaspora. I see our diaspora is very, very active in terms of doing events internationally wherever they are, and committing those funds to certain charities at home here. So we're very
Oh.
grateful for our diaspora for even remembering us during this time. Yeah.
Yeah. And just for our audience also here, a large population of Trinidad and Tobago is also Indian, right? Or of Indian origin.
Oh
What
yeah.
is that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
40%? Something really high.
Um the trainees in the group, please don't kill me. I'm gonna average about 40%. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's quite a large
It's
population, right?
predominantly African, Indian, and then we have everybody you could imagine in between.
It's so diverse and so fun in terms of what people are bringing to the table. So that's very interesting. So I just want to jump into some of the main big questions that we have, which is about what
Sure.
happens next. So what does your next like 8 months look like? What does your calendar look like? Obviously, there are not going to be any events for the next couple of months. So how are you adapting to this? How are your artists that you're representing, or the government? Somebody had asked a question saying, is the government intervening in helping supporting artists at this juncture?
So let me start with the last first. So our creative industry is very informal in nature. Um, we haven't enforced nationally just yet the need for people to get registered companies and register their brands, and to have artists especially basically treat themselves as a brand. So having said that, our creative industry society is very cash based. So a lot of them don't pay national services that would allow them to have a stake within some of the grant systems that are available by Ministry of Social Development and other agencies because they're not bona fide registered entities. So there are a number of organizations here locally that are working on trying to appeal to the government to get just that, for creatives to be recognized for some of these grants, because their first tier would have been to deal with persons who were displaced from their work or had been laid off because of the stay-at-home orders and all these things. And they have a triage system where they decide who they're giving out to. So now they've sort of reached to the bracket of creatives, and then what does that mean under even self-employed? So are they registered business entities? Are they paying taxes? Are they any of this, which most of them aren't? They're not contributing back to the society in that formal way. So there has to be some sort of allowance. Yeah, there has to be some sort of allowance made for them, to access those services during this time. And we're hoping that while that allowance is made during this time, that they also start to think about future. We need to register our businesses. We need to register and pay our national security fees. We need to register and pay taxes, etc. So that in the event, God forbid, should something like this happen again, we are on a preferred list of being, recognized and able to access these funds. Even pension plans, they can't access that because they're not paying their national security, right? So, so that in itself is a working progress and situation, but the government is trying to address them and take into consideration all different types of creatives and help them as best as they could. And I think our government is doing a really awesome job at containing this. So all is going well, I think, in that vein. As for what's happening now, so a lot of music. Huh?
Your calendar for the next 8 months.
Yeah. So we at Music TT, we're still rolling out our programs, but doing it in a very condensed, heavily condensed, and form than we used to. So, for example, we have one of our programs which we call Spotlight. Spotlight, we basically have a cohort, a group of artists that would have auditioned for this program, and it's basically like a scholarship program. And whereas the original format would have been they send in their applications, and then we have one judging panel review and sift out, and tailor that down to a certain amount. And then we have the main set of judges with this large public showcase of them performing and everything. So they're really, like American Idol in it right now for their spots. Before they could even get chosen to go into the program, we had to scale back all of that. So we're now, our team spent the entire of last week trying to figure out, okay, how are we doing this? How are we getting this done? So we've come up with ways to tailor that. And of course, we'd have a live broadcast of the show. How we're going to do it is basically snipping live performances together. So we have to now train these artists into how do you record yourself? How do you place the camera? How do you check for your audio?
These are programs that they will do at home, and then you will snip it together, not things that they've already done that you're rehashing.
No, this is brand new content that they have to submit to us, yeah. And then basically on the back end, we'll create a whole concert appearance out of that. So it will look as though it's a live show. And then we just package that and send it out. And then as for the training components, because that's a business training program essentially. So after we've done that and we've chosen our 6 persons and whatnot, how we would roll out the programs traditionally would be to have classroom settings kind of, and then one-on-one consultations with different professionals, whether it be for image and branding, music theory, etc. So is a lot of hands-on and interfacing that way. So we've now had to become innovative and say, okay, maybe we can put in some of those Coursera courses inside of there instead. And then, of course, translate a lot of the elements that would have been hands-on, face-to-face to virtual teaching classrooms. But then some of the other stuff, like in particular the branding and marketing, where they would need to do photo shoots and all of that, would need to hold off for later until we're able to socialize again. Um, so, I mean, that's just one program in which we've tailored. Another one for us is the live music district, so which traditionally would be venues in and around our capital city of Port of Spain. Um, we would have live performances everywhere at bars, pubs, clubs, theater venues, etc. And they're all happening at the same time on the weekends at these different places. So now we've had to do a virtual live music district, partnering with promoters, and these promoters are going live from their feeds, their business pages, and having either a relay type where they go from Shreya's page to Melissa's page to somebody else's page, or they do it just like this, where you have the main company of Music TT up on top, and then you bring in each artist one by one. So so those are some ways in which we've adapted, but we're definitely gonna stick more going forward to the route of education in terms of innovation, because I think even more so now that is important during this crazy time, to figure out way forward, way ahead, how am I going to be operating? What am I going to be doing? Um, how can I turn my current business into an online one?
Yeah. So how have your artists been reacting to this kind of new model that you're experimenting? How has their response been?
Um, of course, they would rather perform live. I think a lot of them are having the hives right now because they can't do live performances. Hence why Instagram is crashing almost every night, because everybody's online all over the world performing and doing stuff. Um, but I've had my series of interviews for the past couple weeks with some of them, and a lot of them are actually very thankful at this present time for it, because in creative sector we tend to go, 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 go. We're like the Energizer bunnies. We're just going, 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 going non-stop. We always have ulcers because we're not eating properly. There's always something. There's always something happening. So I think for a vast majority of them, they are actually happy for the time to rest and reflect and just chill for that period of time. Some of them are using the time to be more creative in other aspects, whether they wanted to focus on writing, or exploring some other avenue. They're taking the time to do that now, or upskill themselves in some other area. Um, our encouragement, of course, is for them to take time to look at their business side again, and to recognize that they are a brand and that they need to treat themselves that way. Um, and especially very important now is that they look at other streams of revenue other than live performance. So traditionally, locally, live performance, and probably copyright, performance rights, are the things that people focus on the most. And for like the higher tier artists, probably streaming on different platforms in terms of their revenue generation. But I recently attended a workshop a couple months ago, 2 or 3 months ago, from a metadata specialist was saying there are over 200 streams of income for just the single artists, that a lot of them, don't tap into. They literally only tap into like 3 or 4 streams of revenue. So it's now for them to look at all these other non-tangible streams, and how they can tap into them.
Yeah, definitely. So just want to quickly wrap it up. It's supposed to be a 15-minute conversation, but I don't have the heart to stop
I'm
you.
sorry.
I just want no, my fault too. I just want to just ask you one last question. So, moving forward, what would be like your big tips that would you give artists about what happens next, and in your expertise and how you think things are going to go and play out? What are some of the things that artists need to be doing like right now, apart from the fantastic advice which is what I tell my clients too, is that you need to go back to thinking about business, marketing plan, strategy, And for many people, and I'm sure we talked about this, is that months of work has gone down the drain because we have to completely shift strategy now, which is fine because I think it's good to take a break and stop the hustle and just rest and rethink the entire approach. So, any last tips, things that they should be doing right now for the future?
Last tips. Considering this is an international audience, I will definitely say use this time to stop just for a second and take an audit of everything that you have as a creative professional, not only just artists, but as a creative professional in any sphere of the creative industry. Stop, take audits of everything that you have. What have you been doing? What do you want to do? And sort of map out, okay, what did I do well? What did I not do so well? And really take time to weed through that. And then look at where the trends are going, and see how can I fit into where this is going, and be relevant and remain relevant. Because I think that's everybody's worry right now. How am I going to remain relevant? And for those who aren't performers, how do I fit into this online business gaming scheme? Because a lot of people were very resistant to doing online businesses. So now you have absolutely no choice. You're presented with a platform now where you need to sit and learn. There's no more of, oh, I don't really want to deal up with that internet. I don't want to talk to, I don't want to have to figure out how to use Facebook or how to use Zoom or how to use any of these things. You have to sit down, you have to learn, and just be open.
So thank you. Thanks, Melissa, for
Thank you
joining
for
us.
having me.
And I hope you have a great Monday and the rest of the week. And thank you, everybody else, who tuned in. So like I said, this is day one of our What's Going to Happen Next series. So tomorrow we have a hip-hop artist and an executive director of Nagarajan from Chicago. So we'll tell you more about that later, but we're not revealing anybody's names. So you guys just have to wait and see. But that's tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Thank you, Melissa. Thank you once again.
Thank you.
And we'll see you all.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye. Have a good night.